Good afternoon. Today we have architect Simon Griffiths. He is the design director for ADAS Global. The first question, Simon, I have is about your India initiatives. Which was your first project in India, and what kind of changes have you seen from the time you started the first project in India and today?
ADAS has been in India since 1999. We were involved with the Delhi Metro Phase 1B. That was our first venture into India. And since then, we've got a number of projects throughout, ranging from Pune, Mumbai, Delhi. So we've actually, and covering all the types of sectors, from residential, mixed-use developments, hospitality, infrastructure. So we've got quite a diverse portfolio, and we've had a long-term presence in India. In terms of changes within India, we've seen a growing appreciation of good quality design. We've seen a lot of companies here realising the importance of international architects and what we can bring to the table. But I also think that international architects need to be mindful of the cultural differences here in India and respect that and work with it, rather than try and take the Western approach and say that works here.
In terms of the difference in the projects for India and abroad, like you said, that we need to incorporate the cultural differences and everything. What kind of changes does ADAS actually incorporate in the Indian projects?
Well, I think one of the things that makes ADAS very different and unique is that we actually engage the local culture and identity. We have 33 offices around the world globally, so we don't sort of sit in an office in New York or London and try and dictate to the rest of the world of how they should work. We actually set up design offices in those locations to deliver projects. And I think that's the key to our success. In terms of India, even India as a whole, there are so many states and differences, from the southern regions where Vastu is very important, to north where there's land issues, to the recent changes with the Mumbai planning codes. So you have to be aware of these and the differences and nuances to be able to design. And I have a team that's been with me now for a number of years, and we're familiar with a lot of those issues, and we can design with those in mind.
So tell us about some of the current projects that ADAS is working on in India, and are you focusing more on infrastructure here or rest of the project work, residential or mixed use?
Since we did the Delhi Metro, our focus has been very much on residential mixed use developments, mainly because that's what the market's dictating. We've seen a lot of land banks being proposed. Residential is booming throughout India, and we're trying to basically focus on clients' needs. So at the moment we currently have the Marriott Hotel here in Noida, Ghaziabad. We have residential projects in Pune, Mumbai, Chennai, and we're also currently bidding for the rail projects in Mumbai. So hopefully we can continue the infrastructure into India.
So given a chance, if you have to redesign the entire railway structure for Mumbai, suppose, with the kind of population and the kind of, cultural differences and everything, so how differently would you design the Mumbai rail network?
Challenging question. I think one of the important questions in India is the increase in public transport. It's fundamental not only within the cities, but of how India is going to become a world force. You have a huge population and labour force, but people are moving to the cities because the growth in the centre of India is limited because of transport. So I think that the metro systems that are developing throughout places like Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi are already in place. I think a lot of the freight corridors and the goods corridors are the key to unlocking a lot of India. But in terms of Mumbai, it's basically dealing with the peak flows. The projects we're currently wanting to look at are connecting into the future upcoming airport developments. So again, it's important to understand how local transport, but also people coming off for example, an airport, not speaking the local languages, how they actually move around, identify either through colour of different stations, of integrating local artwork, themes. So we're very much about creating the safe environment for the rail to exist, but also trying to create an identity for Indian rail and put it on the map.
ADAS has a very interesting policy or principle, you can say, of not having any set design criteria or a pattern of design. So tell us more about it.
Again, I think one of the key things that makes ADAS unique is that we don't have a style or a brand. What we do is design with excellence, and that's our approach to anything from social housing right the way through to transport, airports, and that's something that's inherent in the qualities that we want. One of my colleagues in the board suggested that we are like a university, where we actually have a series of working groups, of tutors and mentors, and we nurture and bring out the best of people rather than sort of dictating to them how they should design. We actually nurture and grow the people within inside our organisation to bring out that excellence throughout everything we do.
Guide our readers and our listeners and people who are watching it about the kind of architectural and design scenario worldwide and in Asia. What kind of difference is there currently?
Asia, as you know, in the last sort of 2 or 3 years with the financial crisis, Asia's managed to survive and is booming. The main focus for ADAS has been the growth in China. That has continued to grow, although there has been a slight slowdown at the moment with residential, but that's continuing to be a very large market sector. We're also looking at other regions like Indonesia, Malaysia, that's starting to come through. And we see India as a huge potential. Although, I think with everything in India, you have to understand that it's about patience, that you have to be here for the long term. It's not going to be a fast gain, but I think over the next 5-10 years, India is definitely going to be the up-and-coming emerging market, and we're here for the long term to make sure that we remain on that point.
On the use of materials, the way materials can transform architecture and design, and the use of sustainable materials as well as high-tech solutions in terms of material use. One comment on that? In
terms of materials, the key is trying to understand the local market. There are lots of materials on the market. For example, one of the recent projects we're using explosive formed aluminium, where you can create any free form. Things like that are available on the market, glass technology, but we have to understand the lowest common denominator, which is ultimately the contractor, and do they have the workforce, the quality control, the labour to install these. And I think that's the key with India, is trying to understand the building technology, how it's actually going to be built, the environment that the rainfall, the humidity that we have to stand, and selecting appropriate materials that will work with that, rather than trying to say a material that works in Middle East is appropriate for India. Absolutely, and I think that's important, and I think that's why we try and set up offices in the region to understand what those requirements are.
Thank you so much, Simon, for your time.
Thank you very much.